Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Darkthrone LP, The Underground Resistance. Darkthrone is a metal duo who has had one of the most interesting trajectories of any group to really kind of come out of the Norwegian black metal scene. In the 90s, Darkthrone was responsible for penning a few of black metal's true classics, and then later after that they progressed a little bit into death metal, which they dabbled in for a very short period of time. But then in the 2000s, they eventually found the beauty in old school heavy metal and crust punk, combining those with their black metal sound for some pretty interesting full lengths, which are decent metal releases, but the people who wanted them to stick to their true blood black metal sound were understandably disappointed. Now, not only did Darkthrone bring to their music a change in musical style, but it was kind of a change in character too, because albums such as Circle the Wagons and Dark Thrones and Black Flags are nowhere near as brooding. There's not this pervasive sense of darkness and demonic feelings or occultness. Instead, these more recent Darkthrone releases feel like testosterone-fueled chest beating, with vocals that reference the old school of metal but are maybe like a little kind of cartoony, a little over the top. And their guitar riffs and their drum beats and their solos reference this era of metal too, taking ideas from artists like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Motorhead, as well as Merciful Fate. And the Underground Resistance is yet another sequel in this saga, but this time it's personal. Not really, I just wanted to say that. The band is actually sounding more old school metal than ever on this LP, with their crust punk and their black metal influences kind of dissipating on these 6 tracks. The introduction to the track Dead Early is old school as hell. It sounds like a combination of AC/DC and Motorhead, with this bass drum and bass guitar kind of stomping over and over and over on top of this speedy guitar riff. And once the song gets going, the vocals just croak. I mean, in this way that's kind of funny. I know that the band must be conscious of what great metal vocals are. I mean, they've been in the metal scene for so freaking long and have had great, fantastic black metal vocals on their earliest releases. However, I can't help but feel like the vocals they've been putting on their most recent releases, especially this one, are kind of satirical, and in this specific case, maybe a little bit of a mockery of the old school. Maybe not in a way where they're trying to directly insult and piss some people off, but it doesn't really feel like Darkthrone is that into taking themselves too seriously, which, if you're Darkthrone, might be something they're kind of sick of at this point, considering the very, very serious black metal scene that they've been surrounded by for most of their musical career. So the Underground Resistance is definitely an LP that, if you're gonna enjoy it, it requires an extra helping of context. Not only do you need to be familiar with what Darkthrone used to do musically, but I feel like you need to also be aware of what old school metal stereotypes are, so you could kind of see and hear what exactly Darkthrone is playing off of, taking inspiration from, and ever so slightly parodying. As far as the guitar riffs on this LP go, throughout, they are pretty predictable and familiar, but solid and very well performed against the drums. The guitar and the drums hit some pretty awesome metal grooves on one track after another. The song Dead Early, right at the start of this thing, is very headbang worthy. And the song Valkyrie is like a beautiful, awesomely written metal ballad. It feels snowy, and the way the song paces along, it feels like a trudge in foot-deep snow. It is epic. There's some great guitar melodies on this one, a bit of acoustic guitar at the intro, and then after this track, the band basically hammers out one heavy metal riff after another until they basically reach the 13-minute closing track, Leave No Cross Unturned, which is a bit of speed metal worship that has this King Diamond-like introduction, Leave no cross unturned. And all of the really bad cartoony vocals from the past 5 tracks all kind of show up for this one group appearance, sometimes singing all at once, sometimes trading places throughout the track. The band really yucks it up, and I mean, they have to be completely conscious of how bad the vocals sound sometimes. That falsetto that I just impersonated a second ago, that part on the song actually feels like it was a splice of 2 different vocal takes or something, because they don't really transition in a way that feels smooth or even humanly possible. And there are other very, very audible vocal flubs all over this LP. I mean, the melodic vocals on VALKYRIE are really flat. And the song The Ones You Left Behind, the vocal harmonies, the male vocal harmonies all over that track, they are messy as hell. I mean, slovenly. The band seems to put so much effort into crafting some of these 4-minute songs with a lot of different riffs and segues and parts and some great solos. However, the vocals are so terrible. The closer is especially where things get kind of confusing, because some of the worst vocal parts on this entire LP are there, and yet it was no small undertaking for the band to craft this 13-minute monster that, when it comes to the drums and the guitars, is actually pretty engaging throughout the entire thing. I mean, it feels like they really wanted to pull off an authentic speed metal track with an anthemic character to it. For me, the vocals on this LP are either the way they are because of 2 different things. Either Darkthrone doesn't give a shit about how they sound, or they're intentionally bad. And either way, that's only going to attract a certain kind of metal listener. Overall in this LP, the riffs are pretty good. They're dusty, but they're performed well. The production is pretty decent and stays true to that old school metal sound. But the cartoony vibes that I'm getting from the vocals are just way too distracting. When it comes to being kind of silly with your vocals, I feel like at this point, Darkthrone has surpassed even a band like Ghoul. I do love that Darkthrone wanted to put a fun metal album together. I mean, I do love fun metal music. That's why I like thrash metal so much. And the vocals on Underground Resistance definitely do give the band character, where if they maybe played the vocals as straight as they do the drums and the guitars, it might have just been a boring, nondescript record that really kind of had nothing to report. And this weird sort of funny, crazy character does make the album fun for most of the tracks. But by the time I get to the last song on here, the 13-minute closer, which is one of my favorite tracks on here, it gets kind of old, honestly. I'm feeling a strong 5 to a light 6 on this thing. If you've given it a listen, what did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And have a nice day. Anthony Fantano, Darkthrone, forever.